Welcome, welcome, everyone. We are going to get started because I have a feeling this conversation is going to eat up the entire hour. I am excited to have everyone here today. My name is Sonia Bowman, and I am the Executive Director of the Construction Industry Alliance for Suicide Prevention. Welcome to the first in our webinar series of Constructing Change. Please check back with us often on our LinkedIn and our website for the continued series, which will be in September, October, and November. I am excited today to have this conversation with a dynamic group of women with diverse backgrounds. And so what I'd really like to do is quickly introduce them and then let them introduce themselves. So with me today is Holly Thomas, Jess Bunting, Kara McCaffrey, and Haley Moyers. Jess, why don't you kick us off, please, with a little bit of an introduction?
Thanks, Sonia. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. I'm excited to see so many women in the audience today. My name's Jess Bunting, and I am the Research to Practice Director at CPWR, the Center for Construction Research and Training. For anyone not familiar with CPWR, we're a nonprofit that was created by NAB2 and is funded by federal grants to conduct research to develop safety and health solutions and then work to disseminate them throughout the industry. I sort of landed here accidentally. My background is more in mental health. I went to college and got my bachelor's degree in psychology. And then I went to work at a regional nonprofit that focused on mental health while getting my master's degree in public health. But as I was looking around for a job where I might be able to advance and apply my master's degree more, I came upon an opening on, I think, Craigslist at the time for a position at CPWR. And I had to start learning about the labor movement and the construction industry and all these things. But I thought I'd give it a shot and started with no expectations. And now it's about 15 years later, and I feel really, really lucky to be in a position to support the men and women in the construction industry and make sure they go home safe at the end of every day. And in more recent years, I've also had the opportunity to join the CIASP Board of Trustees. So I've been on that board for about 3 years now as well.
Awesome, thank you. We're lucky to have you for sure. Holly, why don't you go ahead next, please?
Of course. Happy to be here and glad you guys could join us today for this discussion. My name is Holly Thomas. I'm a senior technical professional manager for KBR, which is an engineering procurement and construction management firm out of Houston, Texas. I do field assignments. So I'm currently on a job site south of New Orleans. We're constructing an LNG export facility for a client, multi-billion-dollar project, bringing in natural gas, converting it to liquefied natural gas, and selling it to the market. So I started in the industry as a welder, and I've kind of just worked my way up the ranks through welding and pipe fitting and foreman and construction management positions. Went over into the quality group and was a quality inspector for a short stint. And then I landed in the technical services group.
Awesome, thank you. Haley, how about you?
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me today. I am Haley Moyers, the Director of Workforce Programs and Initiatives for ABC National. And I've actually been here about 11 years now, which is crazy. I am very similar to Jess. I went to a school actually and studied tourism and events management, and I went on to be a wedding planner. I thought that's what I wanted to do. I absolutely thought I was in love with it. I spent my career at college really focused on it, got into the industry, did it for about 7 months, and I was like, oh crap, I absolutely hate this. I'm miserable. Is this what the rest of my life is going to be like? And I actually really stumbled into ABC. I started as a meetings coordinator, and I got really, really, really lucky with an amazing boss, Greg Sizemore, who's still my boss today. And when he came on board, I was feeling just a little meh about just doing meetings, wanted something more. And now with his help, I can't even believe where I am today, the amazing work I get to do. I absolutely love my job. I have such a passion for it, and getting to work around total human health in the industry to make sure, again, that everybody gets home back to their families is really what I love to do. And I'm so excited to talk more about it today. So thank you.
Thank you. Kara, last but not least.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Kara McCaffrey. I am part owner and chief wellness officer at Hauk, my family specialty construction company. I spent several years in construction right out of college. I went to college for math, so again, nothing like construction, Haley. And then I worked for a different roofing company too to gain experience outside of my family company in Wisconsin while I earned my MBA. And then I decided to leave construction, try something new. I can share a bit more about my journey a little bit later on and why I did that. But I worked in healthcare IT where I worked on suicide prevention from a clinical perspective. And then I returned to construction in 2023. I'm vice chair of the Construction Suicide Prevention Week group, and I'm involved in a think tank with CIASP. And I just care so much about mental health and suicide prevention because I lost my brother Gary to suicide in 2005 and others since then that have been close to me. That's why I do what I do and why I make this my life passion. So I'm excited to be here with all of you today and these wonderful women.
Thank you so much. Thank you all of you for your introductions and thank you for being here. I know that it did take time away from what you get to do every day. As I said, my name is Sonia Bowman and I am the executive director of the Construction Industry Alliance for Suicide Prevention. I do come from light construction, but like all of you, this is not what I thought was going to be my career. We just jokingly had a quick chat before we started and I said, I thought I was going to be a lobbyist. So the twists and turns of our career. But each of you have such a diverse background. And what really was the impetus for this conversation is that in early February, I happened to be at a conference and I got to hear Holly speak and talk about the fact that she was the 2015 ABC Craft Champion. And she said something that has stuck with me and really resonated. And when I shared it with, others, it resonated with them as well, but it gives me chills. And Holly, I'd love for you to share what that is with the group. And it's really what started this conversation or drove the passion for us, being inspired to have this. So if you don't mind taking it away.
Yeah, sure. I believe that speech you're referring to, I actually said it's hard to be what you can't see. So, just to provide a little bit more context to that, in that speech, I was talking about my overall career growth and progression. And I was talking about my overall career goals, which is to be a project director over a multi-billion-dollar construction site like I'm working on now. And I stated in that speech, hey, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This industry can be tough as a female or a member of a minority group purely because it's hard to be what you can't see. And it's hard whenever you're in the industry as a female specifically, and you don't see somebody that looks like you in those management and leadership positions. It's kind of hard to envision yourself being in that position as well.
Thank you. That's exactly it. And again, it's still, even when you say it today, it gives me chills because I know that will resonate with so many women out there. I know it resonated with me and just trying to even figure out what I wanted to be, but as a parent, trying to talk to my kids about what they want to be as well. And before I forget, if you do have questions, you can drop them in the Q&A and we will spend some time in the end trying to get to all of those questions as well. So back to Holly and what she said there. What I would love to do is open it up for the group and ask you all to kind of share how that phrase or what that phrase is kind of means to you and how it's resonated in what you do today. Haley, why don't you take this one, please?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I actually had the privilege, right after I started, I got to see Holly win and walk across that stage. And I remember still to this day being like, that is awesome. Like, that is so cool to see, because I will say, while it's very exciting, the majority was a lot of men that were winning, getting these honors and these awards. And when I saw Holly and the way she talked about the industry and her experience, I was just like, this is amazing. This is the best kept secret in the United States, in the world. Why aren't more people talking about this industry and all that it has to offer? I really struggled at first working, especially when I started only in meetings. I really struggled. I just thought I was an employee of the construction industry, and then again, with Greg coming on, I was getting different opportunities with the programs I was getting introduced to and whatnot. And he frequently would remind me, do you feel like a woman in construction? I was like, well, I know I'm a woman and I know I work in construction, but I don't know if I like carry that power of a woman in construction. And honestly, it really shifted when I started working in the total human health and mental well-being area. I grew up being extremely bullied really badly. And it was during my teenage years, which are your formative years. You're wanting to figure things out. And it depleted my confidence. I just couldn't believe in myself, didn't think I was going to really have anywhere to go, and felt very lost. And that lack of confidence definitely carried early in my career. And then the more that I started to get to see what was going on in the industry, that people were struggling, people are bullied in the industry, people are suffering from suicide ideations and things like that, I started to really realize that why not use my lack of confidence and turn that into my superpower and become really confident and help others that are struggling. And what I really love is that I feel like naturally I've always just been a very caring and helping person. I didn't want to be a nurse or a doctor. That wasn't really in my field of interest. But I was like, wait, I can carry that compassion and care in the work I do in the construction industry. And I think that I do have that special touch because I am a female. We have a little bit more of that intuition, like maybe something's off, somebody's struggling with something. And I just think we tend to catch on to that a little bit quicker sometimes than maybe other people do. So I really feel like now I totally know I'm a woman in construction. I own it very proudly, but it took me a long time to get there. And I'm very fortunate that I'm here now, for sure.
Well, thank you. And I think a lot of us struggle with that. I've had, I am so lucky that I get to have these conversations with each of you individually and collectively. So I know that Kara and I have talked about this as well. So Kara, why don't you share some of that if you don't mind?
Sure. So, well, Holly, I love that quote. I didn't hear that until Sonia recently shared that with me, and I just love it. And for me personally, I think I'm in a little different of a spot where I could always see myself because of my family, because I grew up in the family business. So I always knew that there was an opportunity for me in construction because it was kind of just handed there, of like an opportunity. My brother and I were involved, as a kid, I would go into the office in the summers and help out. Like I just always was part of construction. And so I always saw it because it was part of my life growing up. So I didn't necessarily feel that, but I can completely understand for other people who don't necessarily have that same opportunity that I did. If you don't see the woman working there, like I can totally see how that would be. So I love that. And I think for me, it's been a little bit different of I actually left construction for a while because I wanted to prove myself. So it wasn't like I had this opportunity, but I had it because of my name. Like my last name was Hauk. Everyone knew my dad. When I went to work for a different roofing company after I worked at my family company, he knew my father and he got me my job. So I actually left construction because I wanted to prove myself that I could get a job because no one knew me. No one knew my last name. It was just on my own skills, my own knowledge, my own brain. And that's why I left for over a decade. And maybe it's because I was a woman too. Like maybe I had that urge to prove myself even more. So for me, it was a little bit different. But then I ultimately came back to construction. And I will say that I think from when I was there, over like 15 years ago to now, there are clearly more women. And I think that's part of this webinar and this initiative too, right? Of like making it so people see it more, so you even know it's an option. But I love that quote, Holly.
Speaking of quotes, Kara, will you share the story about being up on the roof, and the mom that you heard talking to her daughter?
Yeah. So when I was working at the roofing company in Wisconsin, I worked out in the field a lot. So now I mentioned I'm part owner and chief wellness officer, but I did work out in the field to earn everyone's respect and to understand the trade and just to earn respect. And so I was out in the field for a while and I was working in Madison in a well-to-do neighborhood, very beautiful homes. And I think, working with a sheet metal crew that day. And I was up on the roof, in my Carhartt overalls. It's very cold in Wisconsin, my little roof purse on that I had. And the mom and daughter came home from work that day or from daycare, wherever they were coming home from. And the little girl looked up at me and saw me on the roof. And she said, "Mom, look, there's a girl on the roof." And the mom could have responded in a multitude of ways, but it just always warms my heart when I think about how the mom responded. She said to her daughter, "Yeah, honey, you can be anything you want to be when you grow up." And I was just like, that is such an amazing way to support your daughter. You could be a roofer, you can be anything, you want to be. And yeah, when I think of like I still feel myself standing on the roof, seeing that interaction between that mom and that daughter. And I was just so proud of the mom for responding in that way.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Mhm.
I think being a woman in construction can mean so many things. And I think that's why, Jess, I'd love to have you share what that means to you and the conversations that we've had around, are we women in construction? Are we adjacent women to construction? What does that mean exactly?
Yeah, we go back and forth on this a lot. I think I consider myself more adjacent. I consider myself a woman in construction safety and health, which certainly is an aspect of the industry, but it just doesn't require the same type of skills as those in the trades. And so I often stop short of considering myself a woman in construction. But I will say that this is a different industry than any I've ever worked in before. I actually came to this job having worked primarily in female dominated fields before,
Okay.
mental health. I worked in reproductive health. And so it was a little bit of a rude awakening when I started, not at this position, because here at the organization, there are a lot of women, but when I started going onto job sites, when I started training employers and workers, and I was met with rooms full of men, and being the only woman in there and walking in, not even feeling like I'm a part of the industry, and yet I'm about to tell you what you should do. It was a little jarring at first, for the first couple of years, really. And so I think in that sense, I do consider myself a woman that is construction adjacent and that is operating in a male dominated field. The reality is just that my degrees and my skill set could be transferred very easily to another industry, but I've chosen to focus on construction for as long as I'm able, just because I feel passionately about the people that build our country and their right to be as protected as possible at work from both regular hazards and when it comes to their mental health and wellness. And so I think that I've gotten more and more passionate as the longer I've been in this industry around both mental health and seeing women represented. And I am trying to do what I can as a woman adjacent to construction to encourage other women to either do what I do or to get directly involved in the skilled trades. And I think for a lot of people, at least I know I was told, college is the only way to go. And I think that that's really selling a lot of people short, because there are a lot of careers out there that you can make a lot of money and build a life for yourself. And the construction trades is one of those. And, I think it's not just well suited to men. There are a lot of women who can benefit from taking that path in life as well. So, I don't know if I even answered the question.
You did. And I think that's a great segue for just Holly to speak to that for a minute, because clearly you are a woman in construction.
I think it goes without saying that I'm confident in saying I'm a woman in construction. My entire professional career has been on active construction sites for the last 16 years. And just back to your point, and I know you said you feel like you're adjacent construction, but I'm here to tell you that your position is valid. You mean something, and you take up space that we need you to take up. So all of the people here today, I know you may feel you're adjacent, but you're not. And this is coming from someone who is in construction and on a construction site. We need people like you for us to be successful. So you're not adjacent, you're in it with us. And we appreciate what you guys do.
That's awesome. Thanks, Holly. So that actually is a great segue to my next question, which I feel like was going to be a question, but I think I know the answer to it. And that was, I was going to ask you if you think being a woman in construction is your superpower or your kryptonite, but it seems like many of us are feeling like it's the superpower. So why do you think being a woman in construction has allowed you to create a different kind of impact? And what has the response to you being in construction as a woman been like? And what kind of maybe, and Haley, I'm going to ask you to speak to maybe a little bit of the pushback of woman in construction and what that maybe means. So I don't know which one of you wants to go first. Tell us about the superpower effect here.
I'm happy to definitely kick it off. Jess, I was honestly going to echo what Holly said. If Greg was sitting here with us, he would say the exact same thing that Holly said, and definitely echo that. You are absolutely part of it. Without you, we wouldn't be able to have, the support that women really need in the industry. So thank you. But I I know I told you this. I think it's totally my superpower. I feel like I've just naturally been a very caring person, and the industry is a very male dominated, tough minded, not promoted to ask for help and seek help. And I think that's where I really have this opportunity to help reshape the industry. I want it to be where we talk about there being zero suicides as opposed to the second highest suicide rate out of any industry. I think that with my compassion, I carry that into the education I provide. And I think that's what really helps me stay motivated in those tough times. And it helps me realize, this education is important. Even if only one person walks away out of 100 people and took something from that message, I feel like I've done my job and I've helped really reshape the industry and start to have open conversations. My biggest thing is I want people to know that it is okay to ask for help. It shouldn't be expected to be okay 100% of the day from 9 to 5, and then you leave all your worries at home and just go about it. That's not realistic. People can't do that. And I think what I really have always noticed is you just don't know what somebody's going through. So if we can talk more about how it's okay to ask for help, start to have a caring culture. So if the person you worked with for 10 years, you start to notice something's off, you can help address that. You can go to them and say, look, I really care about you. You don't seem like yourself. How can I help? I always tell people it takes just a few minutes out of your day to ask someone, hey, how are you doing today? What's new? It seems like such a small thing. And I know we can get caught up in our busy days, but what you don't realize is that could be a huge life change for somebody that just was looking for someone to ask how they're doing. And so they had an outlet to talk about, I'm really struggling. I don't know what to do. I feel lost. I'm scared to ask for help. So I've always thought now it's kind of my superpower. It took me a while to find that, but I'm starting to realize it more and more that the more that I do, the more that we have these conversations, especially conversations like this, I think that I'm going to become more powerful. That's for sure.
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad you found that superpower for sure.
Oh, and
Holly,
sorry.
go ahead.
I'm sorry. The pushback, I will say that was kind of hard for me because there are some women in the industry that they don't want to be identified. They want it to be equal. They don't want to be called out for being a woman. They're like, hey, we just want to do our job, and fair, totally fair. But when we get into job sites and a woman has her menstrual period, trying to deal with that in a porta potty is not going to be very fun. And those are tough conversations to have in a very male dominated workforce. But if my boss is using some of these terms, I know it's happening. And so instead of just letting it happen, let's address it. Let's be a leader in the industry. Let's have better, facilities so that women feel like they can take care of all their personal needs and still do their job and not be pointed out for it. They don't want to be made to feel like, oh, they get a pretty bathroom just to them. It's not that. Hey, we just need the facilities so that we can do our job, get back to work, and keep moving about our days. So sorry. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you. Holly, what do you say about this being your superpower?
I think it definitely is a superpower to be a woman in construction. Some people say it could be a kryptonite as well. And I think there's certainly opportunities there where maybe as a female, you could overthink a scenario. And that maybe could be a kryptonite point for you. But for the most part, it's a superpower for sure. Typically women are more detail oriented that I've found. And that's been proven to me through my coworkers, even as a welder. I've heard people tell me when I was on my tools welding, hey, you pay attention in more detail to what your weld looks like. And it was true. And we would compare welds to each other. Mine, and some of my colleagues that were men would compare what our final product looks like. And the conversation was always, hey, yours is more detailed. It looks prettier. And it was because I was more focused on the small details of that aspect of what I was doing. And I think that has changed throughout my career and my overall progression through different roles that I've had. So as a welder, my superpower was attention to detail in my welding. Now, as a senior manager over other managers and other staff, I'm able to be like a mama bear. And I've been accused of that at times, that, hey, I'm looking out for my people through leadership of them and making sure that they're okay. And I'm kind of being somewhat motherly to them, just because it's inherently natural for me to do that. So I think that being a woman in this industry is an incredible superpower, and definitely there's a lot of strengths that we bring to the table to help the team be successful.
Awesome. Thank you. Kara or Jess, how about telling us about your superpower?
Sure. I love everything that the other ladies already said, and I can relate to that a lot. And the mama bear thing is really cute, Holly. And I think, for me naturally too, I'm just a very caring, nurturing person. And not to say that all women are like that, right? Like everyone's different, but I do think at least for the group here, we probably are just like more naturally caring. And I think people can open up more in that way, when you know that someone truly cares about you and they're giving you a resource or sharing education, it's because they want you to ask for that help. They want you to get the help that you need. And so I think having that caring nature allows people to feel okay asking for help. And so, yeah, for sure, a superpower for me. And I feel like in a way, I almost stand out a little bit more in a sense, and it just highlights that visibility, and I can make more of an impact. One example that I was thinking of too that shows this is one thing that we promote a lot at my family company is our employee assistance program. We always had one, but we didn't really necessarily promote it. People didn't know about it. And so when I promote it and I talk about it in a caring way of like, hey, I care about you. I want you to know that this resource is there for any stress, whether it be mental health, financial, you're grieving because you lost someone, whatever it is, it's there. I think coming from me as a woman and that caring nature allows people to actually use it. I think also as an owner, like showing that like if it comes from me, it's really coming from leadership, the importance of it. I think that helps too. But we've seen our numbers for our employee assistance program rise dramatically just by promoting it more. And I think a lot of it does come down to the way that we're promoting it and truly caring about people. And I think that as a woman, I have that superpower within me with that.
That's awesome. Jess.
Yeah, I just agree with everything everyone said, and maybe just elaborate a little bit to say that I have found that just because men are surprised to see you there doesn't mean that they don't want you there.
Fair enough.
As we prepared for this webinar, I was joking with you and Kara about all the times I've stood in front of a room full of men to give a presentation and then been met with a sort of shocked compliment at the end. Something along the lines of, wow, this is impressive, or you're really smart, but almost said in a way that implies they didn't think I would be. When I was younger, this would get to me. But as I've gotten older, I realized that it's actually pretty harmless, and it's actually a sign that many men in this industry are fully ready to let go of their misconceptions about women and not only accept us into the fold, but really listen to what we have to say. I think everyone else has alluded to the fact that being a woman is a superpower because we think a little bit differently. We have different skills than men. And I think that's a value of diversity in general. When you get people that think different ways, that have new ideas, you're going to make improvements on the job site, whether it's related to mental health or just trying new ways of doing things with regard to your trade. I think that coming in with a different perspective, with fresh ideas, with a different way of thinking about things, really is a superpower that benefits not just the individuals, but the industry as a whole.
Thank you all. So there is a question that I want to just throw out to each of you that's in the Q&A because it's really specific to what we're talking about at this moment. And the question, there's a little bit of chat before that, but it essentially says, at what point do you find yourself putting yourself into a mold that men might find more palatable versus being your authentic self and promoting the shift of accepting women in construction from a more of a managerial position? So does anyone want to speak to that? Do you feel like you're not able to be your authentic self, or do you have to change who you are to be a woman in construction?
Hey, so I'll take this one first, and I've got a very
I
strong
think so.
opinion about this, as you all probably can tell already. Under no circumstance am I willing to sacrifice who I am to fit into a mold because someone else thinks I should be there. And I would encourage all other females in any industry, male dominated or not, to feel the same exact way. And if you do feel yourself not seeing yourself as being able to be your authentic self, reach out to somebody and talk to somebody about that. Call me, I'll talk to you, and we can talk through it, right? But under no circumstance am I going to water myself down to fit into some mold that someone else has dreamed up.
Thank you for saying that. Does anyone add anything to that? Because I don't know if I could have scripted that better. So I also didn't know that I was going to get slightly emotional on this webinar, but that the question A made me really think about that. But Holly, your answer couldn't have been more perfect. So thank you. Absolutely. Anyone want to add to that, Jess or Kara or Haley?
Holly killed it. I mean, you don't want to try to make me fit into a mold, that's for sure. And honestly, I think being your authentic self is what makes the industry amazing. It's, you have no idea, maybe something you've thought of and you share could be totally a culture change for a company. So I would just say, man, have that confidence to be you and be true.
Yeah, exactly.
Kara, Jess?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I could change myself to fit into a model if I tried. But I know that the pressure can be there to do so. And I think, especially for younger women, the pressure can be there to do so. And, like Haley just said, I think it's really important to show up as your authentic self, because it's not just better for you and your mental well-being, but it's better for everyone around you. And I think ultimately earns you more respect when people can tell that you're being authentic and you're showing up as yourself.
Awesome.
Yeah, I love all those responses. And I think for me, part of the reason why I went away was to do my own thing and kind of have that time for myself and earn my own recognition, like I didn't want to do something because I felt forced into it. And that wasn't because I was a woman in construction. That was more so like a family thing. But I kind of broke away, and I feel like I wouldn't want to fit a mold. I wouldn't want to do something for someone else. And I needed my own time to work that out. Um, and so, yeah, Holly, I love that. It's so encouraging.
Mhm. That's awesome. Thank you, guys. So my next question is this. We're here, obviously, we've established as being women in construction, but to a degree, I think all of us touch in the place of construction mental health as well. Is this where you saw yourself or imagined you would see yourself in your career? And what's the favorite role you get to play in that? So I would like, actually, Kara, if you could kick that off for us.
Yeah, sure. This question just makes me laugh because in no way did I ever think my life would take me, here to this moment. And I am so, so thankful every day that it has, but I never imagined that. I mentioned I went to school for math. I didn't even know if I was going to get into my family business. I always thought my brother would, so I didn't necessarily think that that was going to be my path. And then after my brother passed away and I'm now an only child, I didn't really know, there was no one else to do it. So I did get involved in construction. And like I mentioned, then I went away. I had always cared about mental health personally, like just I always had, especially since I lost my brother, but I didn't know that I could work in it professionally. I didn't know that I could have that passion transfer from personal to professional. And it wasn't until I actually left construction and worked for a healthcare IT company, a major software company that many of your clinical records are probably in. When I was there, I got to work on mental health and suicide prevention in that professional aspect. And I got a chance to work with clinicians from around the country to better understand suicide prevention. We worked to put tools into the system to better identify patients at risk for suicide, to better treat them, to follow up. Like I would have never had that experience from a clinical perspective had I not left and gone to that software side. And so my life kind of went in this path of like that was meant to be. I was meant to gain that knowledge that let me learn that, oh wait, I can do this on a professional stance. And at that point, after a decade of working there, at some point, and I don't remember when, I saw the CDC stats. I think they came out in 2016 that showed that construction had a really big issue with suicide. And it was at that point where I realized, oh, wait, like I have this personal passion. I have this now clinical knowledge and this professional experience working for a software company in suicide prevention. And I have the opportunity to work in construction at my family company and help my family company, hopefully help people in the industry and use all of that and place it into that effort. And it was really meant to be, but I would have never known that, 15, 20 years ago, that this would be the path that it took. But now that I'm back at my family company, I'm able to focus on that. And I think one of the things that I am just most proud of in my role, and the thing that I enjoy the most, to that second question, is just being able to hopefully to help people at my family company, to make a difference, hopefully in the industry, to help be a part of this change like everyone on this call is doing. Um, it means so much to me to be able to remember my brother and to take that loss and turn it into this new life and this new passion of mine. So it was meant to be, but I did not expect that I would land here.
Awesome. Awesome. Jess, how about you?
I similar story, I guess, in that very unexpected but feels meant to be. I talked in the beginning about how I sort of stumbled into a career in construction safety and health. But it actually ultimately does feel like it was meant to be, because my dad's dad was a farmer turned residential home builder. And then my dad worked in construction for years himself before going into electrical engineering. And so I was always very aware of the career opportunities that the industry offers when it comes to the skilled trades, when it comes to having your own business like my grandfather did. But I had never considered that there was a administrative side to the business, that there were supporting roles like safety and health. That never crossed my mind. Those discussions weren't happening in my house. My grandfather was doing things in a very old school type of way. But based on that, I didn't think I would end up working closely with the construction industry, or honestly working in occupational safety and health, period. It just wasn't on my radar. But I did imagine myself working in mental health at various stages of my life and career. And so the last few years, I feel like, based on my history in mental health, my family history in construction, I feel like things have come full circle as I've really had the opportunities through CPWR and being on the CIASP Board of Trustees to focus on mental health in construction. And I think what's kept me at this job in this industry also has a lot to do with the sense of community that comes from it, not just at my own organization, but with regard to the industry as a whole. I've found that all in all, people just really care about each other. I've become friends with people that have completely different opinions about how safety and health should work in this industry, with people that sit on the opposite side of the table as me politically. All through my work in construction, I've heard countless stories of loss and of survival and of resilience. I've shared drinks and shared tears with so many caring and hardworking and sometimes struggling people. And the opportunity to do that regularly and to at least try to make a difference in some of their lives is what is absolutely keeping me in this job, and hopefully, until I retire.
Absolutely. Holly, how about you? Did you always see yourself in construction?
I would love to sit here and say I had some grand master plan to get to where I am at today, but the truth is no. If you would have told me 20 years ago that, hey, you're going to work in industrial construction for your career and you're going to be the leader of other leaders, I would have probably laughed and thought, yeah, right. I was told that, you've got to go to a 4-year school to be successful in life. So that's what I did. And obviously that didn't work out for me. I went there for a year and thought, yeah, this is not for me. And I left. And it took me a year of doing nothing except for working to realize that, hey, I need to do something with my hands. I need to do something where I can build something and be a part of a team that is working to build something to and achieve one common goal. So I went to school for robotics with the end goal of, in a small town in Alabama, with the end goal of learning how to program a robot to build a car on a manufacturing line. And it wasn't until I enrolled in that program that I learned about welding. one of the classes that was required was a welding class. And the only reason it was there was so that I could program the robot to make the weld. So I put that class
Wow.
off. Yeah, I put that class off to the end because I'm sitting there thinking, this is going to be in a hot shop. There's going to be a bunch of guys in there. They're probably going to stink and be gross. And I just don't want to do it. So I put it off to the very end. So here I'm in my last semester of college, and I've got to enroll in this darn welding class. That was my thought process then, right? And unbeknownst to me, I fell in love with it. And it was something that, when I put that hood down, the only thing I was focused on was that weld. If there was something going on in life for me that maybe, wasn't working out the greatest, I wasn't thinking about it because I was only focused on that weld. So I fell in love with it. And it was one day that my dad made a statement to me. He said, "Hey, remember what I've always told you. Find something that you're passionate about and make a career out of it, because then you won't feel like you're working so hard." So I had to make a crucial decision then. Hey, do I just stay in school and get a welding certificate, or do I graduate and go work and program robots? I made a decision to stay, which led me into construction and industrial construction. I was fortunate to be in a welding program that was sponsored by a industrial construction company, which kind of got my name on the map. So, and then even whenever I got into construction, if you would have told me as a welder in construction that, hey, you're going to be the leader of field engineering staff and document management staff, I probably would have laughed at you then too, because I would have told you, hey, I'm going to be a welder the rest of my life. Um, but unbeknownst to me, right, that's not how it worked out. I saw somebody in the field as a welder that looked like they were about 60, and I think he was really 40. And I thought, man, I don't want to do this the rest of my life. And that led me over into welding inspection, and got my certified welding inspector certificate, right? So, which put me in the quality group. And then once I got to the quality group, I thought, man, I like this. I can do this the rest of my career. Well, at the age of 32, I was offered a quality manager position. And I thought to myself, I've never looked at a quality manager and thought that they did something besides quality. And I don't see any females in management and leadership positions on a project. So, you know what? I don't want to be a quality manager. I want to do something else. And that decision led me over into being a subcontract coordinator. It led me over into being a field engineer. Obviously, it's led me to where I'm at today, which is a technical services manager over other technical services managers leading field engineering staff, right? So absolutely did not think 20 years ago that I would be here today.
Right.
And I'm grateful for the way that it's worked out. And, to your second point, you've asked, what's something that we've enjoyed the most about what we do, essentially. And I think that that's changed for me over the years. When I first got into the industry, the thing that I enjoyed the most was when my mom and dad came to visit me. They always wanted to ride by the job site I was working on. And one of the things that I enjoyed the most about those visits was I could look at the job site and point out something that I welded to my parents, and I could say, hey, I did that. I was proud in that moment to be a part of the team that was building that. And that's changed for me over the years. I still feel that sense of pride in being a part of the team that's building something and achieving one common goal. But now I get more pride out of helping others learn and helping others grow and trying to be the best leader that I can be.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. Haley, we know that you've made a bit of a journey as you shared. Tell us the favorite part of your job, because I know you get to do so many amazing things.
I truly do. I'm having to remind myself I'm a panelist because I am enthralled with all the other panelists. They're amazing. And so I'm just like, oh, you're a panelist too, but honestly, I mean, again, I thought I was going to be Jennifer Lopez wedding planner, I mean, that's what I was really working towards. And I had the privilege of going to the first CIASP board meeting with Greg in 2018. And I couldn't believe that construction had the highest suicide rate. And I walked out of that meeting with him and I was like, look, I don't know anything about mental health. I definitely don't have a degree in mental health. But this is scary and I care, and whatever I can do to help, let me know. And I've just always been someone that's open to learning new things, taking on opportunities. And that's what I did. I dove headfirst with the mental health and just was like, I'm going to take in what I can. And now what I love the most is the mental health champion group that I get to work with. Every month we have all of our instructors meet, and it's just a safe space for us. We share things that have happened in the classes that we provide. We share best practices. We talk about some of those hard stories that we hear, how to respond when those come up. And really, it's just being able to work with those people and that group. It has truly become my passion. I care so much for them and what they do for the industry. I'm always just in awe. I think it's incredible the things that they come up with and they bring to the table for the group to take as a best practice as well. That keeps me motivated. So really, it is truly the people I get to work with, and honestly, the stories that are shared. That's what I love the most, for sure.
So I could probably brag on every one of the people on this panel because you're just amazing, amazing women in this space. But if I could mention that Haley is probably trained hundreds, maybe thousand more at this point in construction mental health and suicide prevention training. She has trained countless ABC members on Vital Cog. So kudos to you for doing that. You've really embraced this and kind of taken it to the next level.
Thank you so much. I mean, it means the world to me. I used to not even be able to get up in front of a room and talk. I had severe stage fright. And when I started this journey, you know, I was like, I'm going to have to get that confidence and get up there, because I knew the message was so important. I knew having the conversations was important. So I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Pleasure. So that actually brings me to my last question, because I think you might want to add a little bit of that to this. And that is, what would you say to all those ninth grade girls out there trying to figure out their place in the world and what they want to be when they grow up?
Well, I will say, if you don't have it figured out, that is totally okay. It gets so much better after high school. That's what I will say. I know it's fun. Social media is crazy. You know, I would just say that it's okay to not have it figured out. Take this time to go out and see what excites you, explore opportunities, take the time to meet new people. I would really encourage you to find out more opportunities besides just you know, going to college if that doesn't feel right for you, or going into the military. Maybe that's not what you want to do. Give me a call. Give Holly a call. We'll talk about construction all day. My great grandfather was a welder. My grandfather was a welder. If I knew what I knew now, I would definitely be a welder, because I think welders are amazing and awesome. But that's what I would have done. And I know how lost I felt in ninth grade, especially being bullied. I had no confidence. I felt shut down. I just was trying to make it out of, you know, high school. So it gets so much better. Take this time to just explore, find out what you like. And I would highly consider a career in construction in the future.
Absolutely. Kara,
Sure.
what are you going to tell those ninth graders?
I would tell them that you can do anything you put your mind to. You aren't limited because you're a woman. If you see a male-dominated industry, whether that's construction or something else, it's okay, and you have a place to fit within there. For me, it's wellness in construction. For you, it could be something else. And I think about construction as an option for you, because there are a lot of roles that you might be passionate about in construction. Maybe you like finance and numbers. You could work in finance and construction. Maybe you could work in HR, maybe you could work in safety or operations, management, or the trades. You could be a craftsman, you could work out in the field. Like whatever it is, there are places for you in construction. So I would just think about that as an opportunity. And I want to go back to that story of that mom and that daughter. And as a reminder for all of us as parents or caregivers in the room to remember, support the younger generation, keep an open mind for them, right? Like that mom telling that daughter, you can be a roofer when you grow up. Like that means so much to children to have their parents' support and that open mind. So I think it's a good reminder for all of us to do that.
Jess.
Yeah, great answers. I would just add that you should talk to the adults around you to learn more about your options as much as possible. I think, you know, I said this earlier, but part of why I never imagined myself working in occupational safety and health is because I didn't know that it was a career. My high school guidance counselor never mentioned anything like it. And I mean, there are so many different types of jobs in the world. There's no way she could have told me about all of them anyway. And I just feel like I went into college kind of without even really thinking about what I wanted to do because I just didn't know what the options were. And I wish that there would have been more opportunities or that I would have seized opportunities to talk to the adults in my life and take opportunities to learn about what they like about their jobs, what they dislike, and just figure out how many different options there are. Because, long gone are the days of women only being nurses, teachers, and secretaries. But the second thing I would say, and I think somebody in the Q&A already kind of touched on this, but it's never too late to change careers.
Gonna say that, yes.
And you can do it more than once. If you might like something or you think you want to go in one direction and need to make a change, and then who knows, 10 years later, you might make another change. So I think that sometimes, yeah, we're kind of told that once we decide to do something, that's it for our lives, but there's no end to the reinvention.
Awesome. And last but not least, Holly.
And so ninth graders are what, 14, 15 years old?
They are, yeah, they're about 15. I have a ninth grader right now. And that's what made me think of this question, is that we are starting these conversations. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, at 14, almost 15 years old, it's crazy to me that we all went through that, and we all had to think about at that stage of our life what we're going to do for our careers. I think back on my journey, and I think I was 22 before I actually ever learned what I was passionate about, and what I wanted to do in my career. And that was stumbling through a 4-year college and failing, right? And then going back through another college program, a 2-year program, and determining I didn't like that and changing up again. So it's crazy to me to think back that at 14, we're having to have these conversations, right? So I would say that, hey, we understand what you feel like. We understand the pressures you may feel, but it's not as bad as you may think it is. You've got time. And like Jess was saying, even if you choose something and you make a go at it and you find you don't like it, you can always change. And I can speak to that. There's a young lady that's 34 years old that called me just 2 weeks ago. And she got my number from a friend, and she just started a welding program at 34. She's been in customer service her entire career since 20. And she was feeling a little bit down in her welding program, being the only female there. So she just was calling for some support. And she's 34, making a change in a career. So at 14 years old, what I would say to you, and it echoes a lot of the things these other ladies are saying, go out there and try different things. That from 14 to the end of high school, that's the time for you to go and meet people, and ask them about what they do. Ask them about what a typical day at work for them is like. Ask them what they like and dislike about their careers. Maybe find an intern program if you feel like you might like something. And who's to say you may join that and 2 weeks later you don't like it? Now at least you know that you don't like it, right? So the ultimate goal always is, and I'll go back to what my dad told me, is find something you're passionate about and make a career out of it. Because once you do that, it doesn't feel so much like work.
I love that. And I can echo that. I was 48 when I saw my dream job on LinkedIn. And so, certainly there's opportunities for change. Thank you, ladies. I appreciate you all so much. I could have this conversation for hours, but I feel like we need to jump into that Q&A and see if we can answer some of those questions there. So one that has shown up a couple of times is, how can you become more involved? Certainly you can become involved in CIASP. You can go on our website and fill out the volunteer form. We have committees that you can sit on. The easiest way for someone to become involved, though, is find an organization that you align with, whether it's us or CPWR or ABC or AGC or whatever association that you belong to, or the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, or NAMI, which is the National Alliance for Mental Illness, and share their information. Follow them on LinkedIn, support the messaging that they're putting out there. It's a really great way to be able to share that. And it's a really easy way to initially become involved, to test the waters and see if that's where you feel like you want to belong, and then join those organizations. They always need support, whether it is time, talent, or treasure. They will take it all. We will take it all. Absolutely. So I hope I answered that question a couple of times throughout here. How do you bring suicide prevention to more companies in the industry? What is your advice? I'm going to actually throw this to Kara because I know she is doing lots of things in that space. So if you don't mind kind of highlighting some of the ways to do that.
Sure. So I think from my perspective, getting together and Sonia already mentioned about like ABC or AGC. For me in Pennsylvania, there's Keystone Contractors Association. So getting involved in local trade organizations and helping them spread the message and spread the reach across their members, because, you know, it's not just my family company that I'm trying to help. I can get connected with other trade organizations that are spreading the message to other organizations regionally. I'm also involved in Construction Suicide Prevention Week, which is another initiative more nationally trying to spread awareness. No, Haley is too. So we're trying to spread awareness around the country. And that's something, if you look at their website, there's free resources, you can register, and that helps build awareness and kind of spread it out. And I think for me, even locally here, I reside in Madison, Wisconsin. I work with a local nonprofit here, and we're trying to give out free gun locks to construction companies, free Narcan, trying to set up vital cog training with them. So you could even do it on a non-construction level, but finding a nonprofit that is willing to partner with you on this. So I think there's different ways that you can spread the reach just outside of one company, but those are some of the things that I've been doing.
Awesome. Thank you. So there is a question about cultural and language conversation in around this. Actually, I think there's two of them. So Jess, if you don't mind speaking to some of the resources that are out there that support specific culture or pressures and ways that people can access some culturally competent material.
Yeah, and I think actually I've had some conversations with Monique who asked the question also
Perfect.
about this as well, because it is an issue, not only when it comes to mental health, but just safety and health in construction in general. We do a lot of work at CPWR and we don't have it figured out as far as the best ways to translate both for linguistic appropriateness, but also for cultural appropriateness. And one thing that I keep hearing around the mental health conversation is that Native or immigrant Hispanics may not be at the same readiness level to have the conversation as their white counterparts. And so it may look a little bit different just as far as where you start the conversation. So at CPWR, we try to put all of our resources in both languages, and you can go to our website and get toolbox talks and hazard alert cards on mental health in Spanish. But I would just say that what's not on the website and what is based on my experience is just that, yeah, I think the conversation is maybe starting at a more base level and taking a longer time to work up to an in-depth conversation, because when you are introducing the conversation of mental health to people and they've never had it before, it can just take time for them to get past the stigma of it and to accept that they're open to the conversation. And part of getting past that stigma is just repeating yourself, talking about it frequently and in small doses so that people become desensitized to it and that they're more willing to talk about it themselves. So I think that's a really, really key point, is just considering your audience overall, even regardless of the demographic. Is it a group of people that has talked about mental health and mental wellness before, or is this a brand new topic to them that you need to ease into a little bit more?
That's awesome. Thank you. Does anyone add to that at all?
I will just say I was providing vital cog education one time, and we actually had an interpreter in the class with us because we had several people that were Spanish speaking. And the one thing that the interpreter was actually struggling with was, he was like, we don't really say these phrases about die by suicide, killed himself, herself. He was like, so I'm trying to keep up with you, but I'm almost struggling because I want to get a point across that this is very serious, but that's not in our common language, you know? So that definitely was very eye-opening for me. It's great that more programs are providing it in Spanish, but again, there are very different ways to say different things in all the Hispanic languages. So that's what's really challenging.
Awesome. So the other question that is in here is regarding employee assistance. As a female employee assistance professional, I have to say that the construction workers feel comfortable talking to me. Do you think male EAPs are more effective?
I talk about EAPs a lot for someone that doesn't even really have a full background in them, but I think the biggest fear a lot of times is that they're scared they're going to get in trouble by going to EAP because they think that all their information is going to be shared within leadership and whatnot. And so what I really try to remind companies, especially when I'm providing suicide prevention education, is I say, look, you might have employees that have been at your company 10, 15 years. Remind them each quarter, here is what our employee assistance program offers. This is for you. This is not for us to get you in a gotcha moment. It's nothing like that. They're not out to get you. They're there to help you. And I think there is just this stigma around, like, there's a fear that they're going to get in trouble with what they share. I can't really say if it's male versus female, which more effective. I honestly think there is just a big stigma around going to EAP in general. And every training I get or I offer, I talk about EAP. I'm like, go to EAP, remind your employees about the EAP. It's there to help. I've seen it help my other coworkers, and I know it's just a benefit that others should access for sure.
Awesome.
Sonia,
Thank you all again.
sorry,
Oops, go ahead.
I just want to add real quick, I know we're out of time, but when it comes to EAPs, I think rather than gender, one key thing to whether or not they are effective is if they're actually able to be responsive, answer the phone whenever anyone calls, and knowledgeable about resources that can help. Because if the EAP is not going to be anything but a phone number, and they're not going to actually do anything to support the workers, nobody's going to use it.
Yeah, test your EAP, make sure it works, test it frequently, and know, kind of that it is working. And again, I'll remind everybody that if you are in crisis or you're with someone that's in crisis or you're worried about someone that's in crisis, you can always reach out to 988. Thank you all. Have a great day. And to my panelists, you are all amazing. And to our audience, thank you for being with us today. Have a great day, everyone.